Right, guys, welcome to another Teams Like Brighton podcast. And
We're back.
we're back. It's safe to say I picked the worst possible week to go on holiday in sunny
Nothing happened.
Barcelona.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. No, nothing on a constitutional level happened. Nothing in the football level happened, quite literally, at one weekend anyway. Nothing happened on the pitch, but I think everything that happened off the pitch happened. And as the ball started to roll, it just snowballed and it hurt even more. But let's just get on with it. Yes, we're late. Yes, he's had his first game at Chelsea last night. Yes, he experienced a few boos at Stamford Bridge, but we won't talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to talk, though, about Potter leaving the Albion. Rich, I'm just going to ask you for your thoughts before I just go into an emotional rant. But yeah, your thoughts as the Brighton correspondent.
Yeah, so it was just a mad couple of days. Obviously, kind of woke up on the Wednesday morning, and then Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea boss, had been sacked, and then obviously straight away I was preparing pieces on kind of previous comments from Potter about his future, or Tony Bloom and Paul Barber and stuff like that. But it just, as you say, it snowballed so quickly to the point when, Chelsea have entered talks, and then I spoke to Paul Barber, Brighton CEO, on Monday, and he said that he received a phone call that morning from Todd Bowley, the Chelsea chairman, and he said his first reaction was to turn off his phone because he didn't want to know. But I mean, it's just the speed of it. To literally, it was just over 24 hours, or under 36. It happened so quickly. I think that has led, obviously, some to speculate that maybe just how quickly it was done. Maybe there was talks beforehand, or I don't know. I mean, that's pure speculation. And then obviously just fans are getting more panic stricken, and the kind of the information that was coming out to me was that obviously he's had talks, and then people more in the know were saying this could really happen, and then literally, afternoon. I think, I found out it's just in the Thursday morning. I think it was like, this is done. This is going to happen. And then obviously you see the car coming into Lancing training ground, and you think, wow, this is it. And then, it was just crazy busy. And it was to go from, a few days earlier thumping Leicester 5-2 to this, to quote King Theoden in Lord of the Rings, how has it come to this? So what about you, Tomo? I'll let you have the limelight for a little bit. Vent.
It's really hard to not get too emotional as a fan to look into this, really. There's a lot of things I'm really frustrated by with Potter, but if I try and rationalize it, I'm not surprised. If you look at his career, he's clearly had a vision in his head about where he wants to be in X amount of years, and quite clearly he's managed to achieve it now. And he's now on day 1, day 2, whatever, of his new phase in his career. Because if you look at how the mannerisms and how it went about with going from Östersunds to Swansea, from Swansea to Brighton to Chelsea, there were a lot of things the same. There was the open letters, there was the quick transitions, there was the coaching team that jumped along with him. And in previous circumstances, I believe it was just Billy Reid, Jon Hamburg, and Carl McCauley. On an emotional level, this and just the emotional warning here, I am more frustrated that Bruno and Ben Roberts have gone. Ben Roberts has been applauded as one of the best goalkeeping coaches in the Premier League, and losing him is a big blow, I think. And it'll be interesting to see how the likes of Sanchez reacts and how he performs under the new management, which hopefully will be soon. But we'll touch on the new potential managers later on anyway. Bruno going is heartbreaking. It is. I'm gutted because the moment I heard Potter gone, I thought, cool, Bruno interim manager. Let's go for this. El Capitan is now the boss, and then he goes along and joins them as well. So Potter has literally gutted us, and the more I keep on thinking about what Potter said in the past, this guy was all about the big picture apparently, and I think some fans, including myself, have clearly been led astray, thinking that the big picture was the club, was him at the club, was what the club were doing, and where we want to be. And we really felt that now, especially with this season, especially with how well we did at Leicester. Clearly, the possible was really in motion. Everything was clicking. All those little discrepancies were brushed under the carpet, and then this happened. And I think that's the real frustrating thing, is the fact that we have given him time, we've given him patience, we've given him the backing that we needed. Literally, we've given what managers have been dying for at the top level for close to probably about the last 10, 20 years, probably even longer, since the Premier League era, shall we say. And the moment it starts to get good, he jumps ship. He goes straight out. And I think there is quite rightly a degree of just pure frustration, anger, and emotion from many corners of the Albion. And I totally get where people are coming from with that. But if you look at what Potter's said and what Potter's done in the past at various places, it's clearly we were just a stepping stone for him, which is a shame, but I suppose is the irony of a team like us. So that part I'm really frustrated by. Can I personally forgive him? I think we always knew that he was destined for bigger and better things. I don't think people, I don't think it's that people are frustrated by it. It's how this has happened, and that I think is where a lot of people are missing the point if you're looking from the outside looking in, because things were just going good. We were dreaming of Europe. Could we still get it? Well, the jury's still out. We had 2 postponements, which has probably helped us out finding a new manager, and now we're into the international break. So, again, like the jury's out on that part. But if you just look at how this has all gone about, how this has all happened, particularly what he said only recently in previous press conferences just this season, it's just how it's been done. And that's why I think a lot of Brighton fans probably will never forgive him, and just have very, shall we say, a bitter taste in their mouth.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I'm more heartbroken that Bruno's gone and Ben Robertson's gone. That is where I am on an emotional level. But I don't personally blame Potter really going to Chelsea. Champions League football, top 6 club, huge budget, huge vision. And you're getting paid £12 million a year. With all due respect, Richie, if you and I got offered that amount of money for a job that we love to do and we said no, you have my permission to just whack me on the head several times and be like, what the hell are you thinking? And I assume the feeling is mutual as well, that I can do the same to you. But, yeah, there we go. Exactly. So the thought process is clearly there. I mean, he's got more money than he's ever had as a professional footballer. He hasn't really had the most illustrious of careers, shall we say, but clearly his management setup has set him onto levels that he's never been able to compete in his professional footballing career, but in his professional managerial career, he was always destined for European games. He was always destined for bigger and better things with us. It's just how it's happened. And I'm going to keep on going around in circles with it. But that is my point on this, because really, I'm still frustrated. I'm still annoyed. The more I think about how excited I was after that Leicester City match, that was the most complete performance I have seen from the Albion. everything we did there was just close to perfection. I think if we got the clean sheet, it would have been perfection. Just two little mistakes cost us, and we get punished for it, quite rightly. But in comparison to previous seasons, we were superb. We didn't bat an eyelid when we went down after 30 seconds. We didn't bat an eyelid when they tried to fight back. We just controlled the game. Everything just clicked, and Alexis McAllister was robbed of the greatest goal at the Amex. He will never be able to do that again, which I'm gutted for. But wow, I mean, him in himself, that's probably the best performance he's ever done in an Albion shirt. And I think a lot of those players did that day. And it just seemed everything was exciting, everything was great. And then 2 days later, that happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the more I'm talking about this now, I'm going to get really frustrated.
Okay, I'll let you kind of simmer for a bit, but so just on, I guess from my perspective, and obviously you made a lot of good points there. I think just from, if I tried to be, if I'm being less objective here, just on a personal note, like obviously this is my Graham Potter was the first kind of manager I've dealt with as a sports journalist, and he was always very nice to me, very polite. We got on pretty well, and obviously I've become a bigger fan of Brighton. So I can definitely understand the feelings of yourself and Brighton fans as a whole, and I do think it is, if you do get a great opportunity, then you're probably going to take it. And if you think about it, you might have to wait. I don't know. It could have been a long time before another top 6 job came up. So there might have been a thought in his mind that I've taken Brighton as far as I can go, which would obviously. But then some Brighton fans would say, no, we can definitely go further. And obviously, there's the kind of feelings of, oh, this is just a classic, big money team comes in and just asset strips from teams that think outside the box and are innovative. So you've always got to lament those sorts of things. So just on this topic, I think Jack Phillips, shout out to him, a diehard Brighton fan, puts it very well on the whole Bruno Potter whole shebang thing. He says, I think a simple apology that it ended this way would have been more sufficient. That reads like it was a difficult decision for him, but reports say he made a decision in a couple of hours, if that. I'm quite happy at this point to draw a very thick line under Potter, Bruno et al. And look to the future. No issue with their decision. It was an easy one to make, but they burned their bridges here by doing so. Ultimately, they've made a decision to accelerate their careers at the expense of the club and the people who lose out most of the fans. That's fine. It's their choice to do that, but it's also a choice by definition, a selfish choice. So they don't deserve forgiveness or adoration from me in return. You make your bed, you sleep in it, which I think is a very well put, way of maybe summarizing what a lot of Brighton fans think. I think that was very well put, and I think there's 100% credence to that view. I'm still slightly in the sort of kind of, I'm being boring on the fence, but I'm still like, get that point. I'm sort of in the middle, but it's I think what needs to happen now is that, and we'll move on to this in a sec, but yeah, Brighton have to find someone who can carry on, because from what Paul Barber said, they want to continue Potter's legacy. They don't, they like the pathway that they were going under Potter, instead of Chris Hughton, for example. And I think we can look at the future. So Tom, have you seen some of the names that have been mooted from Brighton's success? And can you give me your thoughts on which ones you like?
Yes. So I think we should just narrow it down to the serious contenders, because we had the likes of over in Lon, Frank Ace, who has been doing wonders in Ligue 1, champion in Ligue 2 for then, and he's now their talks early on, very early on, might I add, that he might give PSG a title race. Again, working wonders, next to no budget at all. He's very good at developing the players, but he is not a serious contender. If reports are to be believed, the Albion don't really see him as one of the contenders. I quite like the looks of him. I think the formation and the way he plays is a instant fit with the team that we have, and from what we've seen under Potter. But I don't think it's happening at the moment. He is the bookie's favourite. He's evens at the moment, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that a lot of people, when they look at the odds market with next manager odds, the market is in terms of the market value, it is minimal in comparison to most bookie markets that you get on a day-to-day basis. The moment someone puts in a big bet in because they're that sure, or the moment they even talk about someone in the media, those odds fluctuate like never before. They swing from side to side. So you always got to take those with a pinch of salt. And the case in point is Hayes. He's still odds on, which I think is ridiculous, considering the fact that we've more or less had a complete and utter, he's not in our thought process at the Albion. My personal favourite, and I'm gutted that the other day he said he's not interested and he's only focused what he's doing at Bodø Glimt, is Kjetil Knutsen. I really like him. I was a big admirer of them in Europe last season. The way that they played and just tore Roma apart at home was sensational, to the point even Mourinho just sat there and was just like, I've got nothing. The special one had nothing to compete with him. And
maybe not as special now.
Not as special. Well, he did win Europa Conference League at least, but it was just the football that was on display was fantastic. The directness and in the approach and attack, the moment they transition from defense to attack, was wonderful to see. And I think that's something that we could get really excited by at the Amex. But he has said that he's not interested. He said he's happy at Bodø Glimt and he wants to focus there. So
I just think things can, as we know, things can change quickly. I think it is rare that someone go, "Yep, come and get me. I'm all yours."
Yeah.
So
you rarely see that. You rarely see a "come and get me" plea. And if you do, then it's more or less like a bad relationship. You just get the ick, really, from it. So I'm not. Oh God, I'm broken. But I think the other person that has been talked about in a more serious level is Bo Svensson, who I think it was, I don't know where I read it, but he's been described as a hybrid of Thomas Tuchel and Jurgen Klopp, which makes sense because he's currently managing Men's, which is a side that both Tuchel and Klopp have managed. So again, it seems to be another great path for us to go into. Again, his style of play is very similar to Potter's. There are some discrepancies, obviously. Not all managers follow the same tactic, but there are some similarities there where we can get a good, solid understanding with the team. And then after, say, like an international break, we could really see that philosophy instilled into our players. So I'm excited with what we've got. I think Barber also said as well, just after Potter leaving, we are prepared for this. We have a short list in case this actually happens. So quite clearly, the moment that Barber got the phone call on the Wednesday, as much as he wanted to switch off the phone, he probably ended the call with Bowley. He probably rang up David Weir and said, right, Potter's going. We need to start getting the ball rolling on this. Get the list up, get whoever you need involved, and let's get the ball rolling on this. So clearly there's a lot of things going about in the background at the Amex, and it's very much the case of, and I don't think any other fan it is in a different camp, but trust in Bloom, trust in Barber, trust in Weir. So we are very much in a good position in that sense. And like I said, the names that have reached the headlines, they excite me. So I'm looking forward to who we get in and welcoming them to Sussex by the Sea.
It's also one name that you mentioned. I think Roberto De Zerbi, who did very well at Sassuolo in Serie A. I think he got them
Sassuolo.
to Sassuolo. Sorry, Sassuolo. Yeah, did very well at the Italian side. I think he got them to consecutive 7th or 8th finishes with a much smaller budget in comparison to other teams in the Italian league. He was at, I think, Shakhtar Donetsk, but I think he had just over a year, but that was obviously cut short. He left earlier this year because of the obviously Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And that cut short the season. So he wasn't able to, I think, really kind of have enough time to really sort of embed his principles. But there was definitely some good signs. But they did have I think, a tough Champions League campaign before he left. So yeah, he's another name as well. So I think, everyone. I think there was something going on Twitter. Basically, Brighton are looking at basically anyone from, a niche person with a Scandinavian background, or a lower league, or not a big name, and that's, I think, very much the Brighton way. But yes, it should be interesting to see what happens, and I personally just hope that it is done pretty soon, because obviously there's still a break. There's still just over 2 weeks until Brighton go to Liverpool on October the 1st, but you want as much time as possible with them, the players. Obviously at the moment you've got interim boss, under 21 boss Andrew Crofts, with Adam Lallana and co helping the players. But yeah, I think you need someone in ASAP. So hopefully that gets done in the next week or so, because then they've got at least a week to train. But obviously then some of the people are going out on international duty, so that complicates matters. So, but yes, it's a new era, and hopefully one that doesn't cause a big downturn in fortunes.
Yes, completely agree. And just going on De Zerbi as well. Yeah, again, another player that is exciting. If you look at a photo that did the rounds recently, he's there in a room with like Pep Guardiola and a few other footballing legends who played at the highest tier of their respective careers. So quite clearly, he's got like that knowledge and that kind of like fire in his belly. He's clearly ambitious, and he's a passionate guy as well, from what I understand as well. So I quite like the fact that we are potentially getting someone like him, looking into someone like him. Again, got great reviews over at Sassuolo and Shakhtar Donetsk, but I don't know. I think for me, it's between Yetel Knutson and Bo Svensson. Those are the two for me. But again, I mean, I think whoever we do get in will be a great addition, and hopefully an improvement from Potter. I think that's ultimately the aim for it all, and hopefully we could reach our goal of European football. That's what we want, and I'm sure whoever comes in wants European football to come to Sussex. So yeah, all the best to that. But we'll move on, because we did touch on this a little bit, but I think it's worthy of just having a solid chat on this, and that's Paul Barber. Richie, you spoke to him about all things behind the scenes, all things Potter, all things about the new manager. So yeah, I'll leave that with you.
Okay, so yeah, I guess first off, it was great to chat to him. Really, really appreciative of that. We had a Zoom call on Monday, and I actually, I think in my rush to get ready for it, I put my shirt on and it was inside out. So I did that whole thing, the whole interview. I don't think he didn't point it out, so that was good on good old me professionally.
He's polite as well, clearly.
Yes, he's got a lot going on, so he's not going to comment on my lack of sartorial elegance. But yes, so first off, there was obviously, he covered loads and loads of different questions from the local journalists. I think just in terms of one place that's a good place to start is about what sort of type of manager Brighton are looking for. What's the kind of profile that they want? So I'll cut to that. So he basically said, culturally, we want a good fit, the sort of person that fits into style in which we operate. That's really important because we have a defined culture at the club and a particular way of working. The head coach has got to fit into that. Secondly, we made a big point when we moved from Chris Hughton to Graham Potter about the style of football we wanted to play. At the time, people were sceptical about whether this was possible for a club of our size in the Premier League, particularly in our early years. And we're still relative novices, so we're certainly not getting above our station, but we have shifted the style of play to the football style that we want to play. So yeah, basically, I think people would agree that it's an attractive style of football to watch. It's yielded good results, and we want to continue that. And then also things like, having a nice mix of experienced players, academy players, continuing sort of the loan system they have. So it seems very much like they want the status quo. And I guess that's when you go into the weeds about which of the potential candidates who are the most similar to that. But yeah, what's your thought on his comments there?
Sensible and reasonable. Again, this is a guy who was brought in to think about purely the business side of the team. Granted that Tony Bloom is a fantastic businessman, and you can see that with the portfolio that he has, but also as well, he is a massive Brighton fan as well. So I think he's brought in Barber as that deputy chairman, that CEO, just to have that business sense of just being like, no, we've got to go down this route, we've got to go down that route rather than the others that are at disposal. He, from reading that interview, he's very calm, he's very confident about what we're doing there. And again, I talked about the big picture with Potter. Really, I think when the dust settles, I think we have to realize that the big picture is still within the club. It's just, it would have been nice that Potter was in it, but he's not. And quite clearly that there are plans A, B, and C for when the opportunity arises that we need to hire another manager. And I think case in point here. So I'm really excited with what's happening. Clearly, Barber's not worried. I mean, he gets paid not to worry. He gets paid to do things, but it's interesting interesting his thoughts and what he has to say. Again, a really, really cool head on his shoulders, on those shoulders. So yeah, fair play to him. All the best, and trusting him to get the right guy with Bloom, and we're in it by his side as well.
And yeah, no, I think so. Obviously, there was so much said. One of it was obviously about little young Billy Gilmore, who's obviously but basically just to kind of put the record straight, there was a report from I can't remember which publication that basically said that Gilmore was a bit miffed that he'd signed on transfer deadline day, and then a week later Graham Potter had gone. That is apparently not true. I've been told. I understand. That's from a special source. No, it's just that's not true. Yes, Potter was a factor, but it was not the sole overriding reason. He also has a very good relationship with David Weir, who he used to work with at Rangers. So that's a big factor.
That's
also,
it.
just in terms of Levi Colwell and Tarek Lamptey, former teammates at Chelsea, he wanted to work with them. He liked the style of play, and he wanted, he said he wanted to enjoy his football again. So for sure, I mean, he'd be like, probably, just a natural reaction, like, oh god. But yeah, he was quite far down the pecking order at Chelsea. That's the thing. So that was one interesting bit. Another bit was about Barber saying there's a huge amount of interest, which is very, very good to hear. But for me, the next biggest sort of takeaway was about him saying Brighton won't change their stance on allowing its employees to speak to other clubs, despite Graham Potter and so much of the backroom staff joining. And his comments were pretty. He didn't hold back. He basically said, football clubs are not prisons. We are not in a position to hold employees against their will. What we try to do as much as we can is protect ourselves with contracts we hope will always be respected, but where people have an outstanding opportunity and they feel it's better for them, their careers and their families, then we've got an open mind. So, and obviously they did that for Dan Ashworth. He was allowed to have talks with Newcastle, and then a few months later, after he resigned, he joined as their sporting director. And I think he also said that they don't want to breed resentment. Because then you might do something behind the back door type thing, or so they want to be open, honest, and transparent, which is a very honourable stance. But I wonder if that keeps on happening. If you go, oh God, maybe we shouldn't. We should actually just really dig our heels in. But as I say, they did get 21 million or so from Graham Potter and his support staff in terms of compensation from Chelsea. So it's not like they're left empty-handed. But that was another interesting takeaway. And he says, they need to protect themselves in the best way possible. Sorry, they know how to protect themselves in the best way possible. And a lot of that is down to the planning that goes into this stuff. So, what do you make of that?
I mean, spot on. If someone comes knocking on the door and they're offering a job for one of your employees, are you just going to just say no and just let that happen? And then it's all there in the public domain that said club has gone for ex-employee. Well, ex-employee is going to be fuming. Not just on the aspect of I want to talk to them, I want to join them, but also the base of it's my career, it's not yours. You're part of it by all means, but you don't have a say in whether I leave or not. Not at all, unless you sack me. That's the only bit you get. If I want to leave, I'll leave. So again, it's all about the bigger picture. It's kind of like, okay, this club's coming in for you. They've met the release clause. You're free to talk to them, and then Barbara and that lot think of plan B, C, and D. Well, plan A goes and chats to that club. Why shouldn't you be given that opportunity? It does amuse me that in the world of football, and probably even in the world of sport, the way job applications work is completely different to what happens outside of the sporting world. If I want to go and get another job, I apply for it and I have an interview, and if I get accepted, I'll consider the offer and hand in my notice. But in the sporting world, it's release clauses, and someone can say yes and someone can say no on behalf of you without your permission, which makes my mind boggle. Which is why I really like the club's policy of, no, we won't stop you. Of course, they'll be like, look, we want you to stay, and we'll talk numbers another time. But yeah, feel free to talk to them. So totally agree with Barbara on that. You don't really want to make you lose the dynamic, and you lose kind of like the welcoming environment that you want at the club. You don't want a toxic environment, and like you say, digging your heels in and saying no. That's what causes toxicity within a club and within any working environment. So fair play to him on that sense. So really happy with that. Just on the aspect of Billy Gilmore, it does make me laugh that someone actually wrote that. I don't know. Yes, Potter was probably a factor in it, but he's got a much stronger relationship with David Weir, who was the assistant manager over at Rangers when he was playing there. And yeah, Potter may well be an attractive factor in it all, but players play under so many different managers now. It's not, players are pragmatic now. They don't cut ties and follow the manager about. They can't. So it does amuse me the fact that was reported, because the moment I read that, I thought, nah, don't be silly. Don't be silly, but play it. He's played under quite a lot of managers already in his young career, and he'll probably play under a few more. So I'm surprised that was written, and quite a lot of people bought into it, because I just don't see that happening in the professional footballing world now. You don't cut ties and just go and jump wherever the manager goes, because realistically, that just doesn't work. I know it happens a lot in non-league football most of the time, like really low down, steps 6, 7 below. But in the professional level, no, that just never happens. unless you're Nico Crancher and Harry Redknapp. That's the only player I could think of that will always go wherever the manager goes. It's Nico Crancher.
What about Richie? Richie.
Exactly. So yeah, the mind boggles on that one, but we'll move on with that because I think again a lot of positives there from Barber's comments. Make the big stance of changing the style of play, and quite clearly we want to maintain that style of play as we try our hardest to go into Europe. So, and no doubt that philosophy and that belief is very much instilled in the style of play that Potter had. So keeping a similar style of play would be a huge bonus to us and would be a huge bonus to the players because that's kind of like the philosophy they understand, the tactics behind it they understand. So having someone of a similar nature, it just makes for a smoother transition, and you just don't have the time now, even in this congested period of Premier League football that we have now, to really install it. But if the club move quickly, you've got an international break to do all that. And I don't think many of our players are actually on international duty anyway. So another huge bonus. It's almost like a mini pre-season for him. But
one thing I wanted to quickly just add, just while we're at it, actually. So I wanted to get your take. Obviously, the Bournemouth game was called off because of the Queen's passing, and there was obviously a big debate that raged over that. Especially because, well, not especially, but one factor was because lots of other sports took place, like rugby. I think the Test cricket, the England game was I think the one day was called off, but they then carried on the Test match, and lots of other sports went ahead. And I think, just from my perspective, I think I would have liked to have seen matches go ahead. I think maybe 2 minutes applause or. Because there could have been some naysayers, and because if you have 2 minutes of silence, then obviously that allows them to have their voice, which is a shame. But I think, personally, like maybe black arm, a little bit like I think like what Richie said, black arm bands, 2 minutes applause or silence or something like that, and then play, because also fans we're in a cost of living crisis, and fans pay a lot of money for tickets and trains, and maybe you have to stay over in hotels and stuff like that. I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I don't know if they got refunds for all that stuff, and obviously this didn't happen. So I think they had to, and also it wasn't like the royal family said no. They basically said it's up to you guys. If you want to do it, you can.
Sorry, point of information there. It wasn't the royal family that said it. It was the government.
Sorry.
It was the government. Yeah.
So I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but then obviously the FA was just like, no, we're not doing it, and I can respect that decision because, she was, 70 years as the Queen. This is unprecedented times for us all, and obviously. She did personally, I thought she did a fantastic job as our Queen. But I think, and obviously as a knock-on result, a couple of games this weekend, including Brighton's one against Palace, is also off as well. I mean, that was already going to be off with the strikes, but then the strikes have been postponed because of the Queen's passing. So I personally would have liked matches to go on last weekend, and obviously Brighton don't play until October the 1st against Liverpool. So yeah, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm going to get more emotional about this than I am with Potter. 5 words that the Queen always lived by: keep calm and carry on. Why couldn't we carry on? What really stopped it? Why was football given this unique treatment? And not just at the professional level either. Every single level, grassroots football, kids football, youth football.
Apart from Eton College, apparently.
We'll stick away from that. I mean, the league, apparently their league is saying that they'll be dealt with in the harshest of measures, but that's a sidetrack. Why is it that football has this? I don't know. And it wasn't even the Premier League started off by saying that they've called off the matches that weekend, and then the FA jump in and say, as a mark of respect, all football gets called off. Now, I was livid with that on the perspective of, I'm thinking of kids who have been deprived of 2 to 3 seasons worth of football to A, develop themselves, and B, just to enjoy the sport, to then get told again that something else beyond their control has disrupted it. When Prince Philip died, we did a minute silence, and everyone wanted to get on with it. And Prince Philip was always that kind of character. He goes, I don't want people to mourn about me. Just carry on, just do your blooming jobs. And I'm sure the Queen was very much like that. Yes, the Queen had to be, had to act like a monarchy, obviously, but from what you always see and read of her, she was always very much. She was a passionate sports fan. She loved sport. She was a big horse racing fan, for goodness sake. So why is it that football gets told? No one who likes football can do it. It's a mark of respect to Her Majesty the Queen. I've got no. I would have a minute's silence, 2 minutes applause, something like that. Yes, there are reports about naysayers and people who are against the monarchy to shout out. But did you see what happened over at Liverpool at Anfield midweek? Some of them tried. They all got shushed out very quickly. There were clearly more people there at Anfield who showed their respect and just gave them that moment of silence. Regardless, I'm sure that the thousands at Anfield probably aren't the biggest fans of the Queen, or just were a bit meh, right? Same place as everywhere else. Not everyone likes everybody, because I don't like everybody, and I know for a fact that people don't like me. That's just a classic, like,
and we famously hate each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing that we are smiling and getting along with each other. I just don't understand why the footballing authority shot themselves in the foot and just deprived themselves of. Well, they've basically done an own goal here. It's just a PR disaster from start to finish. Again, shock horror. I just didn't understand it. If it was from on the elite level, okay, I kind of understand it. But to go all the way down through every single level of the football pyramid and say no football, it just, yeah, the mind boggles on that front. I don't. We just singled ourselves out. We just didn't give them a fitting tribute. And now, by the time that we do get the chance to do it, I mean, Brighton fans can't. We can't do it until after the international break, really. But when Premier League fans do, it's a week and a half, 2 weeks since her passing. Why do we have to wait that long? None of us have the privilege of playing European football like a handful of teams do, and a lot of the games could have really gone ahead. It is ironic the fact that we postponed the Brighton Palace match because of the strikes, and then 2 days later, Her Majesty's passed away, and the strikes have been suspended as a mark of respect. And it could have just been it's one of those cases of, oh, what if? But we just got to move on from that perspective. I just think it was just such a silly move by the footballing authorities. And if I may say so as well, a certain journalist, shall we say, said that it was the right thing. It's not the right thing. There was nothing about it that was the right thing. There just really wasn't, because 70 years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign was very much a case of, you're being there at the heart of disaster. And she's had a fair bit of tragedies, not just as a monarchy, but on a personal level as well. And she's very much the person that has always keep calm, carry on, and just do what you need to do. And for many, football is something that they need to have in their life. And I just think, like you say, cost of living crisis going about, people with interest rates. I mean, me personally, I'm worried about my mortgage is due for renewal. I'm worried what that's going to be like. And I'm worried what my energy bills are going to be like next month. But everyone needs a bit of an escapism. Football is that for so many people. Sport is like that for so many people. And for so many rugby and cricket fans and horse racing fans, they got that opportunity. But for football fans, once again, we were deprived of it. And we were told that that's a mark of respect. Personally, for me, it's not a mark of respect. I think it's just an own goal from left to right and up and down and everywhere in between. It's shocking from the footballing authorities. And I think they know that now as well, that they've made a really big mistake, because if you look at what's happened at other football clubs, Rangers tribute was amazing, by the way, on Wednesday night. Amazing. It was incredible. And, you know, so many for the handful of incidents that probably would have happened, would have been overshadowed by some incredible tributes that football clubs did not get the opportunity to do. And that's what really grinds my gears with it all. They just don't, again, they don't see the bigger picture. They just want to avoid any possibility of bad press, no matter if it's the size of a nib or front page thing. Football should have gone ahead, especially grassroots level. It's shocking. So yeah, poor from the FA, poor from the Premier League, poor from the EFL, National League, everywhere, top to bottom, poor.
Yeah, Tomo, really, really well put. Loads of really, really good points there. And yeah, plenty of debate. That'll probably go on for quite a while. But yes, I think you summed that up very, very well. So kudos to you, good sir. But yeah, I think that's, we'll wrap it up now. That's, another episode of Teams Like Brighton. I was saying to you, do we retire that name now? Because
that name will never retire. Okay. Just because Potter said it doesn't mean it. That was about under Houghton. Okay, Teams Like Brighton stays.
Cool, fair enough. So yes, that's all for now. But we'll be doing, I think, another one in the next week, and then the one after that, before football does return for Brighton to do some of the international break. So plenty to look forward to. Keep on listening and liking and commenting on our videos. And thanks so much for listening, guys. And we'll see you again with another episode of Teams Like Brighton.